Delighted to say that we're joined in the studio today by Natasha Dowie, the former England, Everton and Liverpool striker, who, of course, as I'm sure you know, won the FA Cup with the Blues back in 2010 and is also Liverpool's all-time leading goal scorer in the Women's Super League, winning the league title twice with Liverpool. And it's good to see you. I know you've been here before, but good to see you back again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
And I can't believe that it's now 2 years since you retired from playing football. I mean, where has that time gone?
Quite scary, isn't it? But it's been a great 2 years. I always feel a bit guilty saying that. People, when they say, do you miss the game? And obviously you miss it. You miss the teammates. You miss scoring goals. You miss the fans singing your name. But honestly, it's been probably one of the best 2 years of my life. You know, the first year was a bit of a roller coaster, you know, getting used to life not being Tash Dowie, the football player. Tash Dowie, the ambassador now, and I've loved it. And this year has definitely been a lot smoother after the pre-season tour with the men. You know, I've kind of found a bit of a pattern now, whether it's working within the foundation, coaching, a bit of mentoring. I'm doing a lot of commentary work as well for LFC TV and other channels. And honestly, I'm living the dream, and it's great to be able to have a real impact. You know, as a football player, it's quite a selfish role. You play, you live, you train, eat, sleep, repeat for 20 years. And now I love that I'm in a position where actually I can really make a change.
And I can tell that because you can make a change and because of your work with the LFC Foundation and also the media work that I know you really enjoy doing, I just sense that life is really good for you right now.
Yeah, it is. I've got a massive smile on my face, to be honest, and long may it continue. You know, I think I've kind of, I say I'm lucky. People say you've earned the right to be where you are, Tash, but to be honest, I feel very lucky. You know, going to Anfield every home game and working with the likes of, you know, your Phil Neals, you know, Sammy Lees, John Aldridges, all these absolute legends of the game. And, you know, I feel privileged and I will never, ever take it for granted, to be honest, you know, and I think that that's probably a good way to be about it. And, you know, things, yeah, there's so many exciting things that have happened to me, you know, the Legends game and, you know, going on the pre-season tour. I'm going to the Women's Euros this summer. So that's going to be my first major tournament as a commentator. You know, me and my partner Becky are very happy and, life is very good.
Yeah, I'm delighted to hear it as well. And you have earned the right to do those things because I know when we were on the show last time talking, we spoke about your incredible career. And just for those who maybe aren't aware, you know, I mentioned before, you won the FA Cup with Everton back in 2010. You've won the league title with Liverpool a couple of times. You've also picked up the Women's Super League Golden Boot and the FA Players Player of the Year. You've played for England and also various clubs around the world. And as I say, you remain Liverpool's all-time leading goal scorer in the Women's Super League. I mean, that is a career that you should be really very proud of.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's lovely, especially now with the kind of role that I do. I do a bit of consultancy work where I go to academies and I talk to, you know, girls from 13 years of age all the way up to women's first team football. And it's called it's a resilience and identity talk that I talk about my career, the highs and lows within my 20-year career span, but I mainly focus on the lows because for me, the world that we live in on Instagram, you never post a bad photo. Everyone thinks you live this life where it's very smooth to the top and it's just not, you know, and I think that's really important that people understand that if you are going to have this career, there are going to be loads of highs and lows. But I think if you were to say to the Tash Dowie of, you know, 4 or 5 years old, that wasn't able to play football in primary school, that wasn't allowed to play football in secondary school, you know, it just wasn't a thing. To now then say to her that I've gone on and played in 6 different countries and, like you said, represented my country and done all those things, you know, I just wouldn't have believed you. But now that's what I love is that I go into these schools and I see these young girls that want to be football players and I say, you can do that. That's a possibility. That was never the case when I was younger. We never had role models on the TVs. You know, I always had male role models, whereas now, you know, women's football's on the TV all the time. Like I said, you've got the Women's Euros this summer, which is going to be huge. And to me, that just puts a massive smile on my face that these young girls have role models now that they can see.
And, you know, you've been on that journey, haven't you, as you say, from being in primary school and not being allowed to play football to adding something else to your CV this year, which, as you say, was the Liverpool Legends game. And you became the first woman ever to play for Liverpool in the Liverpool Legends against Chelsea. We should mention as well, Katie Chapman also became the first woman to represent Chelsea in that game as well. A sense of how far women's football has moved. But how big a moment was that for you?
Oh, huge. Yeah, I keep reliving it in my head, to be honest, from the training session the night before on the Friday night at AXA, where I met all the lads, and I knew a few of them through doing appearances at the club. but the intensity was so high. I'm glad I had that training session because, obviously physically men are built different than women. The tempo's a little bit quicker and they're physically stronger. So I knew I had to be on my A game, even though I've only retired a couple of years ago. I knew the quality would still be high. And I was a little bit nervous, on the game day. It's been 2 years since I'd, played in a match. I'd never in my life played in front of a crowd this big. Probably the most I'd played in front of was 25,000 in the FA Cup final in 2010. So to be stepping out onto Anfield in front of 58,000 with the likes of Steven Gerrard. And, more so because I wanted, one, to do myself proud, but I wanted to do, all the young girls, all the females watching. I didn't want to be that token gesture. I didn't want it to be, well, this is why women shouldn't play with men. I really wanted to kind of, almost have a positive impact on the game. And to be fair, I've been getting quite a lot of stick and good humour about smashing Makelele within the first 30 seconds of coming on the pitch, which seemed to go down really well. And then I think I went after Dennis Wise as well and had a bit of a rough and tumble with him. And to be honest, I've been remembered in my career for scoring goals, but now I think people think I'm some tough tackler. So that's a change. But no, honestly, the feedback I got after, Steven Gerrard messaged me saying it was an absolute privilege to play with you. Well done. The amount of videos I had of mums lifting up their young girls and saying, look, this is what you can do one day. And that's what it's all about. I really want to inspire that next generation. And for me, this should be the norm now. It's a charity game. It's a Legends game. Men and women should be able to play. It's like I said, it's for the foundation. We raised over £1 million and honestly, it was incredible.
And as you say, it is about inspiring the next generation. And I saw so many comments on social media when you and Katie played from young girls who were there with their dads on the day and saying, look, this means I can play in the Legends game in years to come, possibly. And it is about inspiring that generation, which is really important, of course. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it yourself, but you did make all the headlines, didn't you, for that? Should we say it was a coming together with Claude Makelele? And I think there was there a sense that maybe you were going to get sent off for that, do you think?
Do you know what? I actually met the referee a couple of weeks ago and I said to him, look, if that had been a proper game, what would you have given me? And he said, no, it was definitely a yellow. Wasn't a red, but he would have definitely given me a yellow card. So I said, thanks for letting me off. But everyone said it got the crowd going and it kind of, lifted the kind of tempo of the game a little bit. So I'm glad that I had that impact.
And as we said, you have earned your right to be in that game. But there is one question I would love to ask you today. When you looked at that list of Liverpool legends and indeed Chelsea legends, when you looked at the team sheet, was there one player where you had that pinch me moment, that sudden realisation that you were going to be on a pitch alongside one of the legends, one of the great names of the game from years gone by? Who was that player?
I think that's quite easy, isn't it? Let's be honest. Stevie G. Yeah, absolutely. He didn't train on the Friday, so he turned up to the hotel on the Saturday morning. And straight away when I walked into the room and saw him, I don't really get starstruck, for me. And I think that's a positive thing. They're just human beings in my eyes. And obviously I respect what he's done in the game. And as soon as I walked in, he said to the lads, well, at least we've got a decent striker, for once. So that was a nice comment. And actually when we were walking out to the pitch together for the warm up, he said, have you ever played in front of a crowd this big? And I said, no. And he said, look, don't worry. If you make a mistake, I'll be there backing you up. Just enjoy yourself and express yourself. So I think that meant a lot to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of love for Stevie G, clearly. So a great occasion for you. Great that you could be part of that. And, we talk about you retiring from the game now 2 years ago, becoming Liverpool's first female ambassador as a result. One particular person who I know helped to give you that opportunity as well was Susan Black, Liverpool's Director of Communications, who this summer steps down from the role after 14 successful years. I mean, I'm sure, Natasha, you're very grateful to Susan for everything that she has achieved, not just for you, but also for Liverpool Football Club as well. Oh,
she's incredible. Susan's someone that hates being in the limelight. She absolutely hates it. She had a nice little kind of send-off as well at the gala event last week with Jurgen there, and she hated that moment as well. And I think that says a lot about her as a human being, is that she always puts everyone else in front of herself. And I say it, I wouldn't have had this role if it wasn't for the likes of her and Alex Inglethorpe, where they had that discussion and created this role for me. And I say it now, Susan Black is a role model for me. She's someone that has inspired me. She's been in positions where you have to be tough to be a female, to be, on the exec board at Liverpool Football Club. And she deserves this break. She's worked so hard. So I said to her, enjoy your time off with your husband, Paul. And she absolutely deserves this. And hopefully we'll keep in touch, because I see her as a friend now, as well as, kind of a role model for me.